Just a few things. Yeah, we had to just close the stream to reopen it. We had a few issues in terms of video that was coming through. Hopefully that's all now fixed with you guys. And I'm now going to pass it over to Magnus to do his talk. And I look forward to listening to it. Please do put questions in the chat. We haven't had any questions come through so far this morning. I know it's early for people in Europe, and I know America's still sleeping, and I'm sure they've got many questions later on. So over to you, Magnus.
Thank you, Cameron. I guess you can hear me all right. I don't think it's that early, but okay. Anyway, I'm just gonna share my screen here. Okay, so what I'm going to present today is something quite different from what you just heard. But it's part of my research project, 3-year research project that I'm doing. And this is one of the papers in which I try to see how we can look at gaming and otherwise, and what it might tell us about forms of digital labor in general. So the paper is called Sunset Chasers, and I'm interested in the labor and life of people that I call game service workers. So, for Matteo, a 30-year-old game service worker based in southern Italy, getting paid to tutor people from around the world on ways to improve their video game skills far outweighed the struggles of managing different time zones and dealing with the bleak economic situation in his region. Where I live, he explained, there are no opportunities because employers usually don't pay well, or they pay without contract. It's really bad here. You need to go either to the north or the middle of Italy, like Rome, Milan, or abroad, anywhere else like Germany, France, Spain, or whatever, just not southern Italy. We're struggling in terms of work, but I can state just because it's online. Sometimes I struggle with the time zone difference, but I think that people are struggling with things way worse than this. For me, it's okay in the end. Only the Americans sometimes ask me when it's like 2 a.m. in my time zone. By the end of the day, I prefer to adapt instead of doing other jobs I don't like. So Matteo here is a part of an emerging digital workforce that provides on-demand in-game services to less skilled, yet more affluent leisure players in immensely popular online multiplayer video games such as League of Legends. Published by the company Riot Games in 2009, League of Legends has become one of the world's leading esports games, with millions of dedicated leisure players and an extremely narrow apex of high-paid professionals players that travel around the globe to battle in the virtual game world in front of tens of thousands of fans, as you are pretty much aware. However, like many other workers that I met through my research, Matteo's position in this rapidly evolving global esports industry is radically different than the experience of its professional players despite his capabilities at the game. Following multiple attempts to become a professional player himself, Matteo still found a way to turn his passion for, knowledge of, and talent at League of Legends into work by offering coaching services that tutor other players on the mechanics and the dynamics of the game. Coaching, as offered by Matteo, is just one of many services offered by this emerging digital workforce. Some also offer services such as companionship for casual players simply looking for others to play with, boosting where workers play with or on clients' game accounts to artificially increase the level of their account, de-ranking where workers actually make clients' accounts weaker in skill level, or gold farming, where virtual currency or other goods are traded for real money. Together, these services in and around online multiplayer video games have emerged as a significant commodity in high demand, which turned the competitive features and the social interactions between players and the virtual game worlds into real-world economic transactions. And yet, contrary to the highly profiled professional players, workers like Matteo go unnoticed despite their profound and growing impact on the purpose and ambience of the playful spaces that most people turn to for leisure in their disposable time away from their own wage labor. So from his living room in southern Italy, Matteo taps into this growing global demand from casual players located in different places around the world, willing to pay others to play with or for them in the digital spaces of multiplayer video games. These customers connect with Matteo through a wide range of digital platforms, offering different kinds of game services. On these platforms, customers pay between 10 to 30 euros per task for material service, usually 1 to 2 hour sessions of tutoring, a pre-recorded or real-time match played by the customer. To lure as many customers as possible his way, Matteo not only offers his service on a wide range of platforms solely dedicated to game services such as Medify, but also platforms for remote freelancers like Fiverr. On these platforms, Matteo has set up a public profile that aesthetically demonstrates his achievements in League of Legends. On others, he has been onboarded onto the platform following a short application describing his vast experiences with the game. Enabling the possibilities of turning an enjoyable and passionate hobby into a viable way of making a living, these digital platforms offer Matteo a much-needed occasion to stay put in an otherwise crisis-ridden local context in southern Italy, where job opportunities are limited. And yet, to do so, Matteo faces a new challenge of attuning his body to the rhythms and pace of his clients. Now, in front of his computer, he therefore often works late into night to be constantly available to tutor and play with potential customers situated in different time zones around the world. At first glance, Matteo's position as a game service worker seems no different than many of the other digital workers finding piecework from data annotation or content moderation to programming or content creation in what has become known as the global gig economy. Much has been written about this growing economy and how the rapid development of internet connectivity has enabled new forms of digital labor that remotely manipulates data with the help of digital devices such as computers or smartphones. Notably, scholars point to the emergence of a global digital workforce enabled by the vast networks of digital work platforms that reorganize and distribute work across the globe. From potentially anywhere at any time, a deeply heterogeneous workforce connect to platforms like Amazon Mechanical Turk, Upwork, or Fiverr from their homes, internet cafes, or offices to do micro work, that is image tagging, for example, or macro work, which is remote freelancing with longer term projects. While these digital platforms provide a much needed income generating opportunities to many workers finding themselves in bleak local economic contexts like Matteo, they also leave clients with very little responsibility for a flexible and scalable on-demand precarious workforce of independent contractors that can be let go within seconds. These digital gig work platforms, in other words, thrive on the promise of a high degree of autonomy and spatio-temporal flexibility by presenting themselves to both clients and workers as atemporal and aspatial intermediaries. The emergence of platform-mediated game services both affirms and challenges this general narrative, is my argument, because it feeds into this global business. I see it as a way that it feeds into the global business of digital gig work platforms. So from the perspective of game service workers like Matteo, time and space actually plays a very crucial role, given the highly interactive, relational, and communicative nature of the services that they provide. Services that depend profoundly on a specific temporal and spatial coordination between workers and clients located in different geographical locations to facilitate the necessary co-presence in virtual game spaces. So in this article that this presentation is based on, I look at the central concern that many of the game service workers like Matteo face, namely that their labor and consequently their everyday life are structured by how they navigate the spatial and temporal dynamics of network digital connectivity that shape this burgeoning economy of game services in online multiplayer video games. So based on digital ethnography, interviews, and online participatory observation, I investigate what of the workday among game service workers are and what these rhythms might say about the importance of time, space, and place in the organization of remote digital work as such, which is otherwise often imagined as capable of being performed anywhere at any time. So in efforts to shed light on these questions, I propose that game service workers like Matteo effectively can be understood as sunset chasers. So throughout their working day, These digital workers jump between and place themselves in time zones around the globe where the sun is always about to set. The notion of sunset chasers thus serves to conceptually grasp how game service workers might advance our understanding of the way that remote digital labor in general is shaped by the intersection of time and space at different scales. So to enjoy spatial fixity, but also more importantly, to make a living from the playful spaces of online multiplayer video games, game service workers like Matteo must synchronize and reconcile their daily rhythms and routines to the evening time and nighttime in locations with different time zones to meet the demand from customers that are themselves enjoying their own free time. So this graph that I show now it's an illustration of how this might look, where you can see the different time zones and where the sun is setting in the east coast of the U.S. on the east coast in the U.S. And you can sort of see, if you follow 24 hours that I drawn from my interview material with Matteo, you can sort of see his daily rhythm is attuned always to where the sun is setting in different locations. So starting from Europe and moving all the way, sort of like how this conference runs 72 hours stream, right? And this has a particular impact on his working day, and it is also a way to sort of highlight how time and space is actually quite crucial conditions if you want to understand even work that is seen as globally and remotely possible to do anywhere. So my article contributes particularly to the growing literature which is interested in the way that geography still matters, even though multiple forms of digital enabled remote work are increasingly prevalent in contemporary capitalism. So what I want to try to do here is to go beyond discussions that often take place within game studies or media studies that focus particularly on the transformation of play into work. And instead, I want to show how we can actually use game service work and the experiences from the workers to sort of shed light on the spatial and temporal conditions that sort of characterizes work in contemporary capitalism. So it illustrates how the potential global reach of remote digital work is shaped and limited by specific material conditions at different scales that connects workers with clients. So things that people often take for granted, but what game services in or multiplayer video games shows really well is the availability of technology, your internet connectivity, networks of data centers, which together you might say constitute what Mark Graham and Mohammed Anwar has recently termed a planetary labor market. So these conditions determine which localities are connected, to what extent, and at what speed. In other words, it allows us to critically probe how place, geographical proximity, and positionality shape who performs forms of interactive remote labor like game service work, where these workers are located, what kind of service that can be offered based specifically on workers' locations, and how these services are delivered. So for an example could be that people in Latin America cannot play directly with people in Europe, so that has shaped sort of what services that they might provide to people based in Europe, but they can play with people in the US due to lower latency. That shapes which kinds of services are available here. So even though platforms that offer game services grant workers with the same flexibility and control over their time, such as other types of what has commonly become known as gig work, workers, I argue, like Matteo, are still subjected to different orientations of time and spatial constraints of connectivity, depending on the specific game services that they provide, which has a crucial impact on the way that they live their entire everyday life. Thank you. I don't think I can hear you.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Hi Magnus, can you hear me now?
Hi. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for that talk. Really, really insightful. Love to see it. We have asked Twitch chat if they've got any questions. So we'll just wait to see if they come back with anything. But have you got any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to end on?
No, not really. I know it's very abruptly ending, but that's how it goes sometimes.
No, absolutely. Caught us a little bit out there, but no worries at all.